right?
Yes, I was last week. Yes, week before, in fact. I was full week at home. We had some workshop with UNEP on assessment of nature and nature contribution to the people.
Okay, right, okay.
EBS assessment, because we got the money from EBS to make national assessment, and it was really good workshop with the countries from first and third tranche. We are in second tranche, and it was really useful to hear experience all of that countries. And also it was really working, hardly working training for us how to finalize, how to make connection between chapters, and how to prepare key messages for policy makers. So really very, very useful.
Okay, great. So, okay, perfect. So now you back to Bosnia, right? Or you are still in Cambridge?
Yes, I'm home. Yes, I'm home now, where I have many lessons and lectures to do in this month. Probably next month I'm going to Canada on COP meeting, COP conference.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure 100%, but probably.
Oh, you are the national focal point for that CBD.
Yes, for Nagoya.
Nagoya Protocol, yes.
Yes. And you, how are you? Are you well?
I'm good. I'm good. Okay.
Okay.
I'm good. Yes, I just worried because we were not communicating for a long time. Okay. But finally, we are here. Okay, great. So, how is your foundation working these days?
It's not so easy. It's really hard to get some funds. There is not so many sources in the country, and also regional activities are many of them delayed because of the situation with Ukraine, and they expected one project with FAO, but it is also delayed. We will see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard situation everywhere.
Yes. Okay. Please now check your slides. You open your slide file of your slides, and you please.
Yes, I open it, and I will share.
Okay. Right. So it's working properly. Okay. Fine. Perfect.
Just okay. Share.
Okay. Yes.
You see.
Yeah, I see it. Yes. Okay.
Okay. And I will start when we started with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
For now, we can close it, and then you will restart, right?
Okay. Just to see, where is. Oh, what's stop share? Okay.
Okay. So just give me 1 minute, and then I will reappear. Yes. So let us begin today's session, today's lecture of Professor Gordana. She is with us. Professor, do you have someone who will introduce you, or should I do that? You are hearing me or not?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. So should I introduce you, or you have someone to do that?
You can, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you giving me this opportunity. Okay. Dear friends, today Professor Gordana is a very senior professor at the University of Banja Luka in Bosnia and Herzegovina. She is with the Faculty of Agriculture. She is a very senior professor of the Horticulture and Genetic Resources Conservation. As we were discussing just a couple of minutes ago, she is the national focal point for the Nagoya Protocol and the expert for biosecurity on behalf of Bosnia and Herzegovina government. This Nagoya Protocol, as you are aware, is basically the part of CBD, United Nations CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity. So other than that, she has been the coordinator of the Agriculture and Horticulture Cathedra at the University of Banja Luka. She has been the national coordinator for Bosnia and Herzegovina in the European Cooperation Program for Plant Genetic Resources. She has been the member of several plant genetic resources working groups. She is also the representative of Bosnian government in the FAO Commission on Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. She is the member and senior member, and also in the official office bearers bodies of various organizations, committees, associations, federations, etc. Not only in the in Bosnian part, but various different parts of the Europe continent. With us, we have quite old association now. We should say like 3 or 4 years, I guess. She is the member of our International Advisory Council. Along with that, she is the deputy editor-in-chief in one of our journals, which is Agro-Biodiversity and Agroecology. She is also the advisory board member at the journal, very popular journal, Grassroots Journal of Natural Resources. So we have been working together for a long time, and we have a very good partnerships. So today, this lecture on the genetic resources conservation will be delivered by her. And we are very pretty sure that we will be benefiting from her extensive and very in-depth knowledge on the genetic resources and traditional cultivation practices in global context, in fact. So I finally invite Professor Gordana to take over and just benefit us from your knowledge and experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kasrac. Really, thank you. It was and is really a pleasure to work with you and have many cooperating activities with you. It is also my pleasure to be with you, all of you today, and to share my experience about genetic resources and traditional knowledge. practices and what is important in protecting of that value which is connected with genetic resources. I will share my screen now, and please tell me, do you just to, yes, do you see presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Genetic resources and traditional cultivation practices are connected on a different way and from both sides. But genetic resources, firstly, we should go a little back and say that genetic resources or agrobiodiversity are parts of total biodiversity on the earth, and at all levels, but especially on genetic level. But we always should take into account 3 levels of biodiversity: genetic, species, and ecosystem levels. In all of this level of biodiversity, we will find some part of some type of traditional knowledge, traditional practices, and agrobiodiversity. In fact, biodiversity for food and agriculture compromises all the components of biodiversity that contribute to crop and livestock production, forestry, fisheries, and aquaculture, both wild and domesticated, at all 3 mentioned levels. In fact, agrobiodiversity or biodiversity for food and agriculture, what is in fact new agreed term, is vital to food security at the earth for nutrition, livelihoods, and the supply of all different ecosystem services. As you could check in biodiversity for food agriculture, there are many components from animals, forests, plants, and then also some cross-cutting issues. What is microorganisms and invertebrates, then access and benefit sharing, very actual digital sequence information, climate changes, and biotechnology. And all this information could be found at FAO web page and on Commission for Genetic Resources web page. Genetic resources for food and agriculture really play a crucial role in food security, nutrition, and in provision of environmental services, and they are components of sustainability, resilience, and adaptation and adaptability of different production systems in agriculture. In fact, it's important to take into account this specific ability of our crops, livestock, aquatic organisms, and other genetic resources, which have to be really resilient and ready for different harsh conditions. In fact, genetic resources, when we are talking about, I'm not sure how you are familiar with this issue, but when we are talking about genetic resources in agriculture, we mainly think on genetic resources for food and agriculture, but usually say genetic resources. And they are, in fact, genetic material of actual or potential value, and genetic material, according to conventional biological diversity, means any material of plant, animal, microbial, or other origin containing functional units of heredity. That means that that component of plants or animal could be stored and saved for the future to be for future reproduction. In fact, there are many species and genetic variability on the earth, different type of organisms, and they are really important for adaptation to new conditions, especially including climate changes. Agricultural biodiversity, or biodiversity for food and agriculture, or genetic resources for food and agriculture. There are different names, in fact, for the same things, are very important, and they have key function in our agro ecosystem, systems which are different from natural habitat and natural ecosystems, because it is connected always with humans and with local knowledge and cultural diversity, because essential part of agro biodiversity is human activity, which conserves, in fact, this biodiversity. In fact, agricultural system biodiversity is important for all type of our activities and all part of our life on the earth. In fact, the most important is production of food, fiber, fuel, fodder. Then they are important for ecological foundation for sustain life. In fact, that is life support function. It is important to provide and allow adaptation to different changing situation, and also it sustain, in fact, rural people's livelihoods. In fact, sustainable agriculture, which provide food security, income, and employment of the rural people. And never forget that this biodiversity is depending with humans, because it is developed through different human intervention over generation, and to be stored, to be kept, and to be present, it requires, again, human management for sustainability. And in fact, humans and agricultural biodiversity are connected and cannot stay one without other. That means that agricultural biodiversity is really complex of different activities, humans, and when we are talking about sustainable agriculture and ecosystem practices, there are many different practices, which includes this genetic and species diversity, but also cultural diversity. In fact, our ecosystem diversity means different production system, which includes habitats and landscapes, and could be based on crop systems or mixed system, which has associated biodiversity, and also or on livestock based system. But never mind, crop system or livestock system is always connected with environment and cultural practices. So at the end, this agricultural biodiversity is not only genetic and species diversities of plants and animals. That biodiversity really include habitats and also whole environment around the community. When we are talking about genetic resources and traditional knowledge and practices, as I mentioned it in the beginning, genetic resources is really deeply connected with traditional knowledge, and in fact are maintained by traditional practices. Traditional practices and preservation of sustainable use of genetic resources are also important element of cultural heritage and social and historical identity of local and indigenous communities, many nations and regions with common cultural history. Contribution genetic resources to the different agricultural system and food security is recognized, and also importance of on-farm and in situ and also ex situ conservation of genetic resources for food and agriculture. In fact, indigenous people, local communities, farmers, and different rural communities maintained from over generation traditional knowledge, expertise, skills, practices related to food security and agricultural and food diversity. In that mean that status of agricultural biodiversity and traditional culture in them is important and has to be protected and improved, and can be used, in fact, traditional culture as a part of this chain can be and should be used to protect agricultural biodiversity. And agricultural biodiversity as a part of total biodiversity has also importance in different part of our life, social, cultural, economic, and also environmental aspects. But traditional lifestyles and autochthonous cultivars and population, animal races, in last century, especially in several last decades, are increasingly threatened by large-scale commercialized agriculture, population growth, urbanization, land use changes, and also very evident climate changes. In that case, in that such situation, it is really necessary to find and to look for innovative approaches which will support also innovative way of traditional knowledge and practices, using of traditional knowledge and practices with the aim to promote sustainable development, but also preserve biocultural diversity and sustainable management of agro-ecosystem, among others. Also, it's really important to stress that strengthening connection between traditional knowledge and practices and modern science and technology is also important and is necessary in order to maintain and improve global food security and agricultural diversity and sustainability, because without this diversity in biodiversity for food and agriculture, the modern science won't be able to create and develop new genotypes, new races, new hybrids or new crops. And it's important to think about traditional knowledge and practices, because especially in last few decades, what is stressed maybe more with the last COVID pandemic, then many local communities were under pressure of this pandemic, and many countries in fact reported that holders of traditional knowledge are lost. In fact, they did, and for whole time, in fact, some traditional knowledge which are not remembered or written or registered is lost. So the importance of this keeping of this connection between local communities, holders of traditional knowledge, and better connection between modern and urban and modern society, that means urban and rural area, it's really, really important in such conditions. When we are talking about last 100 years, in fact, many of plant species are lost, and FAO reported that about 75% of plant species are lost in the last 100 years. But when we look on richness of plant kingdom on the earth, about 250,000 plant species are known, and about 30,000 are edible, and only 7,000 through the history and through the different evidence have at some point be used as a food. But more than 90% of crop varieties, local population, and varieties selected through history of agriculture disappeared from farmers' fields during the past 100 years. And especially it is they are under pressure with these climate changes. Also, biodiversity maintained in local communities by indigenous communities and indigenous people could be key to building resilient food system that can withstand changing weather patterns, then meet nutritional and cultural needs of communities, and rehabilitate degraded ecosystem in our environment. In fact, farmers are very, very important for humans and the life on the earth, because farmers managing different things. They, in fact, managing genes, they managing species, and they also managing with different traditional practices. They manage also ecosystems. And managing agroecosystem and biodiversity in agroecosystem is really complex. And there are some parts about we don't think in commercial agriculture, and part of agroecosystem which are especially under pressure, like pollinators, earthworms, soil mesofauna, soil microfauna, and in the last decades, new platform established as an intergovernmental platform for communication between science and policy decision makers, prepared the first assessment on pollinators to stress importance of losing of pollinators and other organisms which are really important for keeping our life as it is. People or farmers are maintain agroecosystem on a very different way, and for sustainable development, what is in fact the goal of all countries now, include different managing of agroecosystems, and we are in fact again talking about intercropping, main part of integrated production, organic production, agroecology. Then they are important for biomass and nutrition cycling. They are important as a source of natural enemies and crop-wide relatives. It's important for keeping soil structure and soil fertility, to maintain decomposition and nutrients cycling, for disease suppression, and really this participation of local communities and local knowledge and traditional knowledge in this way, in such way of agro-system managing is really important for all of us. But on other side, there are really also human pressures and threats to agricultural biodiversity. As we know, population growth, and the prediction is 9 billion in 2050. That means probably poverty will increase, but we should take that into account. Then to produce more food, probably over-exploitation and the mismanagement of agro ecosystem could be done. Then expansion of agricultural land in wetlands and fragile areas. It will be, there is also intention for intensification and specialization of agriculture connected with pollution, urbanization and changing consumption patterns. Globalization is also one big pressure on agrobiodiversity. All of these pressures lead to a loss of plant and animal species, fostering of loss. Then commercialization, intensification, specialization of agriculture lead to loss of plant varieties and animal races, and also loss of essential natural processes, pollination, regeneration of soil, and also all this leads to the reduced resilience. Sorry. In such condition, there is really urgent needs to increase resilience of agriculture and human capacity to adaptation to different stress, drought, climate change, pest, disease. And it's really important to maintain really wide life forms and life forms with unique traits, which are important and which survived in such condition of different pressure for many years. And all this is important for sustainable use of agrobiodiversity and different way of practices in agriculture. In fact, we have different approaches on sustainable way, integrated pest management as a part of integrated production, then soil biological management, also community-based adaptive management, that means animal and plant genetic resources and diverse farming system, including also agroforestry. And local knowledge system are also really important because of multiple uses of different species for diet, nutrition, medicines, then gender differentiation knowledge of agrobiodiversity. Also, ecosystem approach means that all components and system and services has to be in function connected with human management, and also strengthening viability of farm livelihood systems with underutilized and undervalued biodiversity. That means thinking more and maintain grassland, mountains, different approach to marketing. That means short change, short value of marketing, diverse products, niche products, organic agriculture, and also include different agroecological services connected with biodiversity in all these activities. All this mess, when we today, when we are really aware about importance of agriculture and keeping of agrobiodiversity, but also on other side there are big pressure and big ask from multinational companies, from global companies for totally different way of production of the food. But for food security, it's really important to keep into account that without biodiversity, it's not possible to provide the food security. Agriculture is developed through many years of domestication, more than 10,000 years, and in fact, the big enforcement and big development was in last century, and today we have after revolutionary new methods in biotechnology. In fact, we have biotechnology revolution, and we have to also take into account all these scientific based results. We are aware that it's not possible to produce enough food with old cultivation as it was before 100-200 years, when for harvest, for example, we need 250 hours, and now in modern agriculture we need only with combined 5 minutes for harvest. But with such approach, without keeping ecological infrastructure and some parts of the land as a protected area and different sustainable agriculture, we are under permanent climate changes, overpopulation, environmental problems, and in such condition, hunger and poverty really could be a big problem. But it's really, and all UN institutions, also scientific institution, also private sector is today really aware that it's not possible to continue with such agriculture with application of large amount of inputs, fertilizers and pesticides, which in fact gives different environmental problems which we are facing today. And increase of production in such condition and in developed world, in fact, is not solution when the biggest need for food is in the less developed countries. We have really polarization of the world, and a big challenge in such condition is how to produce food for 9 billion people in 2050. What is prediction? How protect environment, because environment and nature are really endangered, and how to keep biodiversity, which is necessary for humans, for plants, for animals, for everybody on the earth. Sustainable intensification of production is sounds very good, but how to reach it? And also big challenge is how to provide support for development of agriculture in developing countries, to build a good system of education and research in all that countries, to be able to provide food for own needs. In that sense, there are really different new trends which are keeping biodiversity of food and agriculture, such short food supply chains, local food systems, connected with small-scale farmers and farms, and that is also a big challenge today, because the average years, the average age of European farms are almost 60. It was in 2030, 50-55. So that was also reason why United Nations announcing the decade of small farms, and really make many promotion and documents and support to encourage people, especially younger people, to organize production in small-scale farms. But for that, it's really necessary also a good country or state subsidy system, and also different policy than it is now. Organic farming was sometime one way to keeping biodiversity, but at the same time, organic farming is seen as a food for rich people, because, and also is food which is also expensive for producer, because especially because certification, obligatory certification of each year. And now the new approach, agroecology, is announcing, and also FAO promote and call all countries to promote agroecology as a way of establishing of food secure system. That means call to all to think and work locally, and to connect all members of the community, from producer to final users. Also, slow food concept is one good way to keep biodiversity and to promote traditional food, local food, food produced based on local genetic resources, and also protection of origin and traditionality. Traditional food is also one of ways for keeping of biodiversity and traditional knowledge and practices. But after all of this, new way of producing food, we never should forget that land races and autochthonous material are the basis for modern plant breeding, and we must to keep that land races and that biodiversity on any way, and to find how to sustainable use, in fact, that material. If we want to use that material, we in fact have to eat it's the best way to keeping the biodiversity alive. But now, in fact, only about 7,000 species can be used for the food, but only 120 species are in fact of national importance, and 30 species provide about 90% of all calories. But when we go further, only 3 species are used for 60% of all calorie globally in the world. That is rice, maize, and wheat, and it's really that is really large vulnerability because we can imagine situation in 1 year with some big stress and losing of 30–20%. It's enough of some of this production. What could be the result of such incident? All mention it means that traditional knowledge connected with this autochthonous material should be stored, should be kept, and should be maintained, because this biodiversity cannot be used without this traditional knowledge. In fact, traditional knowledge is a living body of knowledge which is developed, sustained, and passed from generations within the community, and at the same time formed a part of cultural or spiritual identity of that community. Traditional knowledge could be understood as a knowledge, skills, innovation, or practices. It's really passed from generation to generation, has a traditional context, and it's part of traditional lifestyle of each indigenous or local communities. And these local communities, in fact, act as a guardian or custodian of this traditional knowledge. Among all example of traditional knowledge, agricultural, environmental, medicinal knowledge, knowledge associated with genetic resources, some mainly examples include knowledge about traditional medicines, also traditional hunting or fishing techniques, and also knowledge about animal migration patterns and water management. Also, traditional knowledge close with the genetic resources is always connected with utilization and conservation of these resources over generation, and also through common use in modern scientific research, because traditional knowledge and local community people often provide researchers and lead them to isolate valuable active compounds within these genetic resources. With increasing global recognition of importance of biological diversity, access to genetic resources, and sharing of benefit that arise from their utilization, and also which is connected with traditional use of these genetic resources, these two issues became the subject of many discussion, many negotiation, and several international documents adopted at a different level. All this discussion led to the conclusion of Nagoya Protocol, adopted in 2014 under the umbrella of Convention of Biological Diversity, and after that continue in other fora different, including also an FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, in which in fact genetic resources are maintained and exchanged through multilateral system of and benefit sharing. But now this access and benefit sharing protocols is also part of discussing at Commission of FAO Commission for Genetic Resources, and also World Intellectual Property Organization and other United Nations organizations take into account importance of protection of traditional knowledge. But when we are coming to different way of protection, we will talk a bit later about this kind of protection and way of protection of traditional knowledge, and especially this connected with genetic resources. It's also important to maintain nowadays importance of this traditional knowledge and agrobiodiversity, especially for adaptation to climate changes, because agriculture, modern agriculture, really is sensitive to such condition, and many scientific institutions and institutes are looking for new crops and totally new crops for old condition, for some region and some condition, and also for a new way of cultivation of current and maintaining of current cultivars and crops. Traditional varieties and local races, land races, it's known that there are genetically more diverse than modern varieties, and in that case they are at the same time better source of genes for also a new way of breeding using biotechnology. And that means that this biodiversity is also important, and for new scientific approach in breeding of new cultivars, new hybrids. When we are talking about using of traditional knowledge, authors agreed, many authors agreed that they are really useful in adaptation in agriculture, and especially it's important. They in fact classified this useness of traditional knowledge in 5 types. That is knowledge about resilient properties such as drought or pest resistance, and knowledge of farmers who are living on marginal lands where climate change impact are greatest, and they have knowledge about resilient crop species and varieties. And research showed that people really know and follow climate changes through 10-15 years. And also they predict some condition and talking about changing of material between them and cultivars. Also knowledge about plant breeding, because for many years and centuries, in fact, only one breeders were farmers. They selected from the natural condition through domestication to breeding. They selected better and better lines and cultivars, and in fact, traditional farmers are also breeders and really are active on their farm. Farmers also, traditional farmers have knowledge about wild crop relatives, because wild areas around the farm provide better condition for pollination system, better condition for biological control of pests, better condition, better environment, and they also know plants around the farms, animals, and which are closed. So the knowledge of that people about wild is also really high and important. Also, traditional knowledge is connected with the resilient farming and resource management practices, because traditional agriculture, in fact, conserve different part of agro ecosystem, water, soil, nutrition, and there are a few way of traditional soil management and also erosion control and land restoration, which should be taken into consideration. Also, traditional farmers have knowledge about climate forecasting, as I say, because they are really following the nature and feel the nature better than people who are not connected with a living environment. For example, I will give only a few type of these traditional practices, just it's not possible to give over the world all that practices, because they are really they are many of them. But one very famous is intercropping system known as Tree Sister. In fact, indigenous people in America planted together corn, beans, and squash or pumpkins. And in fact, corn provided support for beans. Beans provided nitrogen through nitrogen fixing rhizobia bacteria, and squash and pumpkins provide a ground cover and control of herbs, weeds, and in fact protect soil from the evaporation. That is really very famous and very useful traditional management and intercropping system. And this Tree Sister complex is not simply agricultural strategy or technology, it is also cultural complex, complete with stories, ceremonies, technology, processing, customs, and etiquette, and it's a kind of life, in fact. In Europe, we have a different way for protection of different products, local products, protected mark of geographical origin, protected mark origin, and also guaranteed traditional speciality. It's also based on the traditional food system, traditional maintained agro ecosystem, and locally based knowledge. Also, terroir is one kind of, in fact, new way of agriculture production, which take into account habit or geographical area with clear boundaries in which some population is developed through collective skills and method of production. For example, keeping and maintaining cows on grassland with certain plants and medicinal herbs on pastures give the milks with specific taste and chemical composition, and the specificity is transferred also in the cheese produced from that milk. One good example is saffron in Morocco, which is produced in slopes of Anti-Atlas Mountains. And in fact, beginning from 2000, they started to promotion and production of this product with geographical origin, and it's a really good example of keeping traditional knowledge, traditional practices, and protection of this product. Also, there is an example of preparation of coffee in Dominican Republic, which is handled by women. And also, only red coffee berries were used and proceed, and to obtain the optimum quality under controlled atmosphere, fermentation process, washing, humidity control, and everything. Also, one way of protection and keeping of this habitat and ecosystem, agro-ecosystem, is also globally important agricultural heritage system, which is in fact a platform to promote and to keep and to maintain complex as conventional heritage site or protected area or landscape. In fact, such a heritage system, agricultural heritage system, is a living system of human communities in relation with the territory, cultural and agricultural landscape, and wider social environment. Also, one important initiative, I just see time, is I am on time, am I on time? One important activities and movement, in fact, is farmer seeds. That is really a high movement in Europe, especially because of very high European directives about seed and planting material production, and what is in Africa, Latin America, India, seed production and rights of farmers on seed are solved on different way than Europe. And in fact, small farmers have to have right to seeds, because maintaining of seeds with small farmers are vital for survival of that seeds, but also it's important for surviving of small farmers. So that is also one big issue in United Nations Declaration on Rights of Peasants and other people working in rural areas. This small farmers' rights to seeds, and that is also a good movement and practices for keeping biodiversity, and the new way of promotion of these farmer seeds are community seed banks, which are now establishing around the world as a way of keeping and using of locally produced species in communication, different producers and some institution who can maintain the seeds for long term. Traditional knowledge connected with biodiversity and local communities, it's really and play a key role in protecting and maintaining biological and cultural diversity in that community. And by recognizing and including traditional knowledge in decision-making processes at the national level for national biodiversity policy and protected area could have a number of benefits. And it's important talk and promote traditional knowledge also in communication with policy decision makers and also people working with protected area. Supporting the use of traditional knowledge in effects helps to save this unique knowledge system and community's culture heritage, and also make a progress of global biodiversity and development, and provide that this knowledge system is respected and included in the evidence base. That is it's important to stress and to take into account a connection between modern science and traditional knowledge, because we are losing that people, that community, and that knowledge very fast. Mainly that knowledge is not written, is not registered, and in fact, it's important to prepare such evidence base about that traditional knowledge. This table gives some option how to protect traditional knowledge under existing laws. That means existing laws on intellectual property rights, and in different world of different part of world, they are different way for protection, like tools or instrument is industrial properties, like trade secret, patent, utility model, or industrial design, or trademarks and geographical indication. But all this option for protection of traditional knowledge has in fact positive for private sector and for the people who are selling or who are trading that, but it is not in favor of tradition of local community and holder of this traditional knowledge. I will not read these limitation problems and applicable conditions, because you can see after all these mentioned things. The one type of this protection is also plant breeders' rights, and also copyrights and related rights. All these instruments or tools for protection of traditional knowledge are good and in favor, in fact, of intellectual property rights side, but not in favor of holders of traditional knowledge. And there is a really negative in many parts of local communities, especially indigenous communities. It's a negative view. There is a negative view of such protection of traditional knowledge, and in countries where this problem is high, traditional knowledge is coming in public domain, public sector. But that means that government and other stakeholders has to take care and define or establish institutional and legal framework by the law or by other instrument to protect publicly owned the traditional knowledge. but the public domain consists, which is not protected by intellectual property rights, is freely accessible and can be used from everybody, and it's not possible to, there is no clear way how to give some impact to the holders of the traditional knowledge, and there is still international debate on the extent how this traditional knowledge could be protected from exploitation, unfair exploitation, and how to provide impact to holders of this traditional knowledge. In fact, there is no clear proposal and way. Some countries use ABS systems, some countries use intellectual property rights, but many countries and local communities are now talking about some sui generis system in protection of protection of traditional knowledge. That means that each country, in fact, can use own criteria for protection, define the rights which are granted, the period of time for which those rights are granted, define the exceptions to those rights, and also to set means to enforce those rights. Now, that means there is no uniform definition or criteria for such sui generis system to protect traditional knowledge, and countries, in fact, are really totally free to make own legislation and to organize protection of traditional knowledge as it is the most appropriate for that country and local communities. There are many examples of different tools and instruments. Andean community, it is in fact a decision of common regime on access to genetic resources. Also Pacific Island Forum, that is in fact act on traditional biological knowledge, innovation and practices. African Regional Intellectual Property Organization, they prepared protocol on the protection of traditional knowledge and expressions of folklore. Thailand also has own law. Portugal has law from 2002. South Africa, Guyana. In fact, that is the country and communities where this traditional knowledge is so high and so of high importance and high value, where the local communities, indigenous communities, indigenous people are interested, are educated, and are communicated about that countries, in fact, has good communication and good frame for protection of holders of traditional knowledge, but also a good frame for using access to that traditional knowledge, its sharing, and sharing also benefit. When we came to the final part of this presentation, it's really important to stress that promotion and to communication in the community in each country is important, and the key, the decision makers and decision policy makers have to be familiar and introduced and take into account and take care about traditional knowledge and holders of traditional knowledge. That means that it's necessary to make assessment of the status of traditional knowledge, and that is that is a case of IBES approach in the assessment of nature and nature contribution to the people. One very big part and important part of that assessment is status of traditional knowledge. And we in the country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, use that approach, and we are now in process of preparing our national assessment of nature and nature contribution to the people. And now we are working on one activity, collecting inventarization and collecting of traditional practices and knowledge in the country. But we have, for example, a different way for protection, but it's really confused, and we have only a few protected traditional products because of very confused policy in that field, and competing of two institutions and two ministries who will be chair of that process. So we hope that this assessment will also will provide us the way to stress the issue of traditional knowledge and local practices, but also to call the decision makers to think more about this very important part of our society and life. That means for such approach, it is really necessary to have a methodological approach which allows recognition of traditional knowledge and inclusion of it in national policy. Also, it's really important to have community viability framework. That means that traditional knowledge holders and decision makers understand situation, current state of traditional knowledge at local level, and also challenges of indigenous people and local communities, and could identify some problems and make some interventions. So it's really important to keep the community's approach to community framework for keeping of traditional knowledge. Also, people and policy decision makers and also officers and people who are maintaining or living in protected area and natural resources management also should be included in such activities and make participatory some decision-making process, and also prepare some promotive material and organize dialogue, trialogue between all in these communities. That is all for today. I hope I am on time. Maybe this presentation could be complex and a little confused, but the issue is also, especially traditional knowledge, is really a complex issue. If you have any question for me.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Professor. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, I hear you. Just to stop share. Yes.
Yeah, yes, please stop your share. Yes, good. Yeah, now we invite the audience to please raise your questions for Professor Gordana. Please come forward.
I see one. No, it's not.
If anyone is not speaking on the mic, can also write in the chat box.
Unmute my. If there is or would be any question, I will be available for sharing of experience or to give answer if I could do that.
Okay, just to thank you for the presentation. I'm Victor Pe, Romanian Academy. I'm a researcher on agriculture, biodiversity, and I want to ask you mentioned about the importance of traditional knowledge and to preserve it. If you know some handbooks or some methodologies to assess this knowledge and to record it in a way.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question. As I understood, you ask about some sources of practices which support the preservation of biodiversity, some documented.
Yes.
If I could, I will share. I can share with you. There is also we are working now on some introducing agroecology approach in agriculture, and in fact we are working with I am part of also researcher in EcoStack, that is a Horizon 2020 project in Europe. It's led by Italian institution, but Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Bulgaria, France, Serbia, we from Bosnia are in that project, and we are now. We had experiments with the mulch of for potato and crops mixture for wheat and for barley, and that was a really good result, but without pesticides and without fertilizers, artificial fertilizers, and also with the hedgerow and flower strips. And that we when we read that in book, in guide, in manuscripts, it looks so easy, but when you come to implementing phase, you face with different question, but and in our case, In fact, we had good results with that potato and barley with crops mixtures and mulch. But also it depends on other environment. For example, in Germany, they don't use any pesticides, but we cannot provide potato without I do not the main pest of potato, kako se zove ova? Ne, buba, ova zlatica. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I have some basis of traditional practices and documents, and I could share with you other practices from the world, but always you should take into account that it should be adapted to the local condition. Never could be implement such in other. You have to know your environment and all problems in your environment, and in fact adapt some model to your condition.
Professor, I have to substantiate this question with some of my experiences. Dr. Victor, I like to suggest something because I understood your question differently. You had asked some kind of the manuals or some kind of the documents which actually teach you how to document the traditional knowledge in the field. I think that was your question. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So now, actually, I like to give some information about it. Documenting the traditional knowledge is not a new field. It is very, very old field now. It started in 1990, actually, when the American anthropologist first time brought out into the public that this traditional knowledge is very important and it must be documented. So since then, there is a huge amount of work is going on, especially in developing countries, where the indigenous communities and local communities are existing more prominently and are interacting with the natural resources very much. So they are dependent on that. In terms of the indigenous knowledge documentation, this is a very, very in-depth and very, very skillful work. I give you one prominent example from India, which is called as PBR, People's Biodiversity Register. This was actually invented by Madhav Gadgil. There's one professor in Indian Institute of Science in India. And he introduced this documentation process with the collaboration of FRLHT, Foundation for Rural Health Traditions. So that was a very, very interesting project they have had. And first time in India, they did very comprehensive documentation of the traditional knowledge. So those tools then had been applied by many other scholars and many other practitioners. So you can search in the literature PBR, People's Biodiversity Register. So that is a kind of manual you can search in the internet resources. That is one. Another very interesting and very good example of documentation of the traditional knowledge has come from South African cases. Like Hoodia is one very important case, which became the basic basis for the Nagoya Protocol as well. Professor Gordana must be aware of it. So Hoodia is very classical example, along with one drug which was invented in India again. So these were the very classical examples, and there is very intensive documentation of these kind of the knowledges. So I think, and third one, very, very interesting example is of Peru, where the Peruvian people had been documenting the potato, especially. So you can read about it. So I think there are certain tools, very good tools. If you contact me personally on the email, then I may find some very good manuals I already keep in my database. So I can pass on to you, and I can also put on if on the web if it is needed. So thank you for your question. Yes, please, Professor, to you. Any other questions, please?
Yes, I just want to add that FAO site, Hub Traditional Knowledge, and also CBD and also UNESCO has really good, they have a good base of evidence base of different traditional practices and knowledge and projects and guideline and different documents. FAO, CBD, and UNESCO. Also indigenous local communities and indigenous organizations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other question from the audience, please? Okay, Professor, just this may be the last question I raise if nobody is raising any hand. So I wish to clarify from you, because you have been sitting in the CBD as the official delegation of your country, and you must be having more experience on it. You have been given some perspectives in your lecture about this protected areas you have been talking about. And in the protected areas, when you integrate the agricultural biodiversity or agroecosystems, so my experience largely is that the most of the protected areas, if we are talking more the core, the IUCN category 2, like national parks category, is very strictly implemented, and in that case, the local communities, the farmer communities are not allowed in the core areas of the national parks. They are mostly resettled out. They have been rehabilitated out, or they have been simply displaced. Like in many African countries, it has been happening, in Asian countries mostly. That from the core zone of the national parks, any habitation, human habitation, is taken out or displaced. So there is no scope in the core zone of the national parks for the agricultural practice. So whatever the agricultural fields are there, they are just closed. I mean, any farming inside the core zone is prohibited, as per the most of the national park systems in the world. This is my knowledge. So what do you say about it? Is it possible, like in biosphere reserve category, that is the, I think, IUCN 7 category. So in biosphere reserve, it is okay. That is a very broad concept of protected area. I mean, including the biocultural aspects, the people's human habitation, I mean, the all integrated system. But the national parks are the very strict category of the conservation. So which is, in which the agriculture is not possible. So what is your reflection when you are integrating this agricultural biodiversity conservation concepts into the protected areas? So what are the implications, and what is the policy take about it? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your question, explanation, and thinking. Yes, in national park, it's not possible, but we have 6 IUCN category, but also there are biosphere, reserve of biosphere, and also ecological network. like Natura 2000 in Europe or Emerald network, which in fact are a network of several protected area, and connection between space between that protected area should be maintained and keep together and organized on a sustainable way. In such kind of network of protected area, also there are fifth and sixth category of IUCN when is possible to, it's namely sixth category is for maintaining of genetic resources area. For example, we have here, my university is located in, we protect our campus as a sixth IUCN category, which in fact is not native habitat, it is artificial environment, but it is maintained and used for protecting of genetic diversity. In first, second, third, also I think IUCN category it's not possible. But when we come to biosphere, a reserve of biosphere and different ecological network, it's really supportive to maintain that connective area between, in ecological network space between different types of protected area on using it's not possible without people in such condition. That is in fact point.
Okay.
If
any question, other question, or otherwise we are closing it now. Well, we conclude this lecture today's, and Professor Gordana has very intensively explained the subject. And I hope that everybody would have benefited from it. Her lecture video, recorded video, as well as the PowerPoint presentation will be available on the web page of her lecture. So previously I had demonstrated where is it. You just type the grassrootsinstitute.ca.ca/GLI. GLI is the Global Lectures, Local Impacts, GLI. Or you simply type this website, grassrootsinstitute.ca, and you will find it. You go to the programs, and then in the program link, you will find the link for global lectures. So there you can find the completed lectures, and then among the completed lectures, you can have this web page. And on this web page, you will find the link for the video and the presentations. So this is the source how you can get. We will also circulate among the emails, among all the audience we will be accessing the emails, etc. So that is the procedure. Another one announcement before closing is that as this in the November series we have announced that we will provide this certificate to the attendees. So all those who are attending will receive a certificate if one person attends minimum 3 lectures. So if somebody is attending more than 3 lectures, so we will provide extra certificate mentioning those lecture topics. So in the certificate, we think that we will be able to provide maybe in the month of January, not very soon. Or if it is before that, then we can do in December also. We have not yet decided anyway, but it will be provided to everyone having minimum 3 lectures attendance. So that is the announcement. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we have the lecture, and day after tomorrow we have another lecture, and she is the friend of Professor Gordana, again from Bosnia and from the same university. She will be with us. Tomorrow we have very grounded conservationist, practical conservationist is coming from Bhutan. Thank you very much for joining us, all the audience. Thank you, Professor. Take care.
It was really my pleasure to be with you here. Thank you for inviting to be to present this issue
Okay.
today.
Take care, please. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.